Hello everyone and welcome back to the Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo YouTube channel. We've got some brand new Gran Turismo daily races this week. So what I'm going to do is give you some detailed lap guides, tell you where the best braking markers are, some accelerating markers as well. We'll go through it at a bit of a slower pace initially, then we'll do an all-out, flat-out lap, and we'll go through some Delta data as well. First up then is Daily Race A, and for Daily Race A we're going to Tokyo east clockwise in some hand-picked cars chosen by Gran Turismo. Now I chose the Nissan R32 GTR, it seems to be the best car there. Let's jump into the lap and let me tell you how to go quickly in Tokyo. So here we are racing down the start-finish straight here at Tokyo, and we're going to head towards turn 1 flat out here. It's only 5 gears in this car, and you'll hear the transmission or the car saying, change gear. We can't go any further. We are at the limits. Now, we're going to stop it right here. So on the right-hand side, we have this barrier change. Essentially, it's cutting off the motorway exit. Or, well, arguably, we're coming off the motorway, but it could carry on. Now, this is your absolute last of the late braking that you need to do. I would argue you have to brake before this hits the edge of your screen. I'm trying to brake at it just to get on the leaderboard and get up there on the leaderboard, but my advice here is brake a bit earlier than that, use that as your brake marker, and then start pushing the limits when you get used to this car. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop down to second gear here. Now the reason for that is that I want some rotation. Now the lower the gear, the more this car rotates, and you see that right now. So you see that I've trail braked all the way to this moment in time. I'm going to short shift to third gear right there, and then we can continue on through. I'm still on and off the throttle though. The reason for that is these cars are so powerful, the second you get on throttle, the front lifts, and that way you get understeer, so you have to be careful of that. Now on the right hand side here, I've highlighted a wall going into some soundproofing there on that right hand side. Really good brake marker. Now because we're going over the highway, we're going to go downhill, obviously, back onto the highway. Critically for this part here is you can stay in third gear because we're going downhill. We don't have to be at the top of the rev range of second gear. So I would stay in third gear for this, okay? So I'm going to hit the brakes. I'm going to trail brake a little bit as I go towards the corner. Watch out, trail brake, trail brake, trail brake, trail brake, trail brake, still trail braking. I'll let it roll a little bit. Then when I'm happy, I start to accelerate. Now, I still suffer a bit of understeer here. I nearly hit the wall, but I don't. So I can continue on through now. And we're going to head over towards the right-hand side. Now, the corner coming up isn't normally a braking marker. Normally, it's flat out, but these cars are so powerful. Look at the speed there, 177 miles an hour. It's insane, this speed. So you have to brake. Now, on the right side is a lamppost. You can use that if you wish, as this is bang on the money where you need to brake. However, I wasn't using that. I was using the center of the bridge right there, and I was judging it based on distance. So I was saying to myself, I need to brake before I get to that moment. So I'm going to brake right here. Chase cam, you could use the white markers on the road on the right-hand side. I'm going to brake. I'm going to trail brake. All I want to do is turn the car into the corner and let the car carry some speed. So I trail brake there under 50%, and then I'm going to let the car roll. I'm going to keep roll here. Look at that. Not touching anything. When it gets below 150, I start accelerating. But notice I was on the far left-hand side. I'm going to dab the brakes a little bit here. Once again, let the car roll. Do its own thing. Just let the car carry its speed. There we go. We can now continue accelerating, and we get to an actual brake marker right now. And I will hide my head here just so you can see it a little bit better. We have these highway markers, okay? The white squares on the highway. This is your brake marker for this left-hander. You could use a 100 board. We've just passed that, which was gone above the screen. I want you to hit the brakes and drop to third gear. Now, critically, this does need to be at the top end of the power band because you want the exit to be fast. You'll bottom, essentially, the car will just go slowly initially. You'll be at the bottom end of the gears there, and it'll be an issue on exit if you're in fourth gear. So you need to be in third gear. So I drop there to third gear, trail brake a little bit now, let the car roll. Then I accelerate when I'm straight, and then I'm going to lift off to allow the car to turn. Remember, as you accelerate in the top end, the front's going to lift. That's going to cause so much understeer. The front tyres are not touching it. Now, on the left-hand side, you got these yellow signs, okay? We ignore them. We get to the first one that isn't yellow on the left-hand side. We're in fourth gear again. We're going to drop to third gear here, but this is our brake marker. You might be going, Tidge, this is really early. Why would you brake here? It's all about settling the car down, not trying to push yourself to the limits and hitting barriers and invalidating your lap. You want to get successful laps in. Consistency is key. Notice on the right side there, I've got 4 laps completed. I'm on my 5th lap. So I use that as a marker on the left-hand side. I'm going to hit the brakes, okay? Third gear for this corner is just to get rotation. Similar to turn 1 where we went to second, then short shift to third. We drop to third gear right now. Now you can actually accelerate through in third gear if you like, but I will short shift to fourth gear here. Third gear is slightly quicker on exit if you can do it, but again, it will cause some understeer, so you have to be careful. We then have those white markings in the middle of the road up ahead. Now, I brake the second I see these. This was a corner that I kept out-braking myself for. I was trying to push the limits, and there's no need here. It's all about carrying the speed through this left-hander and then getting the exit right to shoot up the hill as quick as you can. So when I see these, I'm going to hit the brakes. I should be in third gear for this corner, and I should be in third gear on the exit. Remember, it's uphill. I want to use the maximum power in this car to get up that hill, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So I hit the brakes, trail braking once again, then I'm going to release the brakes, let the car turn. There we go. And then when I'm happy, I then start accelerating. You will understeer towards the barrier. Just be careful of that if you are doing the third gear there. We head up here then, and I'm using the 100 board here, but I'm braking well before the 100 board. You can see I'm braking literally now. So before the 100 even hits that rear view mirror, I would hit the brakes. Once again, this was an easy corner to outbrake yourself for, because you go, I can brake at the 100, it's fine, it'll turn. It won't turn. You carry so much speed here. So, brake early. If you're finding yourself you're braking too early, just let the car roll through the corner. It will be quicker than you trying to outbrake yourself the next time round. So, just before the 100 hits the top of the rear view mirror, we're going to hit the brakes. We're in third gear now. We'll then release brakes as we start to turn, and we'll let the car roll a little bit more. But we trail brake a lot there, notice. And then once we're around, head over towards the right-hand side. Critically there as well, and one thing I would say is you want to be on the right-hand side of the circuit for this left-hander. It's better to go slower for this corner to get the next corner right. On the right side is this lamppost. I don't use this personally. I was using more of distance, but that lamppost is a very good marker to brake for this left-hander. Critically for this corner, what you want to do is actually turn in a little bit later than all the other corners that you have done before now. The reason for this, it's longer than you realize, and it actually tightens up a little bit on the exit. So if you turn a bit later, the weight shifts a bit better, and you get a better line for the exit. You want to be in third gear as you accelerate through here as well. Notice there, much later, it allows me then to accelerate out towards the barrier on the right-hand side, and now I can go all the way to the hairpin. Now, this hairpin is so hard to get right that it's coming up, okay? Because it's very easy to outbrake yourself. You're approaching this at near 200 miles an hour. Near 200. It's absolutely insane. So, on the right-hand side, we have these gaps in the barrier. Now, the one before the 200 board, which is coming up, is the one you need, and I've highlighted it there, okay? So you're going to hit the brakes right now. Now, what you can do to help your braking, because it will be a little bit inefficient as you go on the brakes, the car will wiggle a little bit, is harden the brakes, but just gently tap the throttle. On and off, only slightly. Nothing crazy, not 100%, just like 10%. That will allow you to get better braking efficiency. It will stop the car sliding. Highly recommend you do that. I'm not going to do that in this instance because I keep the car straight and true. So I'm going to brake in a straight line. I'm going to drop to... I can't remember if I go to first gear. You can go to first gear, but you can do it in second gear as well. Let's see what I do on this particular lap. Second gear, and now we're going to first gear. We're in second gear. We're staying in second gear. You can go to first gear to get rotation. Second gear, though, we're going to instantly get the car turned and instantly go on throttle. This is an all-wheel drive car. So it's not going to suffer with too much power oversteer, unless you set the diff to be rear-wheel drive, because you can change the diff on this. I don't. By default, it's 40-60, and that's what I use. You may also be asking for my brake balance. My brake balance is +5 for this car, which is also why overlaying is very good if you are using +5 brake balance, because then the rear's moving like this, you keep it straight and true. Overlaying just forces some understeer. That's at 148.427. There's definitely 47s in there in my lap, and we'll have a look at Delta shortly to see where I can improve. However, let's head towards turn 1 on a fast lap then. Remember, on the right-hand side, we're going to look for that barrier change. Where is it? There it is. We're going to hit the brakes. We're going to drop to second gear now. Just braking in a straight line. We'll start to release the brakes now. Let the car do its own thing briefly. Up to third gear, then accelerate out. Just be careful of understeer. The soundproofing change there is on its brake marker. Third gear for this one. Accelerating. Just be careful like hitting the barrier on the exit. Head over towards the right-hand side. I use the centre of the tunnel here, braking just before we get to the bridge there, and we're just going to let the car roll through. Roll! They see me rolling. That's all you got to think about. Roll again. Dab the brakes occasionally. You keep rolling. Looking at the highway markers. Hit the brakes. Third gear. Turn in. Accelerate a little bit when you get straight. Then lift off. Let the car turn. And then continue on through. Be aggressive now. On the left-hand side, we have yellow sign, yellow sign, yellow sign. There's the non-yellow sign. Hit the brakes. Third gear. Allow the car to turn in. We short shift to fourth gear. Head over towards the right-hand side. Where's the white markings? There it is. Hit the brakes. And let the car roll. Once we're happy, accelerate through. The 100 board is our next marker. Where is it? Before it gets to the mirror, hit the brakes. We're going to release the brakes now. Let the car roll. Head over towards the right-hand side and then dab the brakes again. Over towards the left we go. The later apex is better here. Continue on down the hill then towards the hairpin now. Remember, we're looking for the gaps in the barrier. The one before the 200. Where is it? There it is. Hit the brakes. Drop down to second gear or first gear if you're struggling a little bit. Remember, first gear is the available to you. You stay in second. Once we see the curb, off we go. Full throttle as quick as we can. A little bit of oversteer there. Did cost a little bit of time. Now we're going to head towards the line. And once again, that's going to be a 1:48.4, I think it was, that I just did. But if you look at the optimum, it's 1:48.1. Easily 47s in my lap. What we're going to do next, though, is we're going to jump into some Delta data and see where we can get that 1:47. Here we are in Delta then, and I've loaded Manu Rodri's lap, which is 1/10 quicker than my lap, just over 1/10 in fact. And what we're going to do is quickly go through this and find out where I can improve my time. Now, already, as we set off in this lap straight away, I'm seeing a speed difference. So I'm losing a little bit of time here on the straight. So you can see there's 1 mile an hour difference. I instantly need to get the run to improve there. And that's because I was doing laps. Manu Rodri may have just started straight off the bat, so went for a wider line at that last corner at the hairpin. If you go for a wider line, you should get a better run towards the line and you could gain a little bit of time. And we're seeing that right there. So as we head towards turn one, we're going on the brakes here as we go through there. We actually benefit quite a lot here. We really do this corner extremely well. Now, does Manu Rodri go down to second gear? Does indeed. And then I'm up to third a little bit quicker. And I think that's where I benefit a little bit. So we're going to go into the next corner then. As we leave there, we are up. We are actually up there. So, you know, we've done the first corners very well. And I would use my advice again and again and again because it works out really nicely. Right, we head towards the fast left-hander. We don't really lose much time there. We're getting a little bit in the middle of the corner. By the exit, it's about the same. We're going to head through the right-hander. And this is the chicane here, okay? We benefit massively here. We really do this very nicely indeed. So what does Manu Rodri do differently? Gears are the same. So it really is just carrying more speed. So as we come into the brakes, that's absolutely fine. We're 2 tenths up there. And on the exit, we are 2 tenths up. 2 tenths. That is so significant. So we must lose a lot of time at the end of the lap, which I think is going to be right based on some of those lines. So we head here to this braking zone where we are braking first here a bit earlier, which is what I said to do, remember, as we go through this corner. And on the exit, we've not really lost that much time. We head towards the next braking zone. And here, look, Manu Rodri brakes a bit earlier than me. So I'm going to guess I lose a little bit of time here. A little bit of time. He's got the better line as well as we go into this corner. I noticed that it's a more inside line. I was sort of in the middle of the road. Manu Rodri, the yellow line, more inside there, and that will benefit massively. Look at that. So I've lost that 2 tenth advantage. So that's a corner I need to improve on. And that's the corner I said, don't go too aggressive. I mean, look at this point here. I'm 5 miles an hour basically up on Manu Rodri. So then by the exit, I've lost so much speed. And that is where I'm saying, don't go too aggressive in this car. And I did that time. And it's one of those hard corners to get right. So we're going up the hill right now towards the right-hander. As we go through here, do we lose a lot of time there? Nothing major. Manu Rodri actually runs a bit wider there, so I think I'm going to benefit on the exit here. And there, notice there, I said compromise this first corner to get a better run on the second corner. Works wonders, and you just saw that right there in Delta. I love Delta for this. This is what Delta is for. Find out the strengths and weaknesses, and I can clearly see there, overslowing on the first right-hander helps me on the second. We're going to head towards a hairpin then. So this was where I lose the rest of my time here. On the brakes we go as we come into here. Now, Manu Rodri takes a much wider line going into here. And we'll get a better exit, I imagine then, as we leave here. Now, I got a little bit of oversteer. You saw that on the exit. So at the time, as we come into this corner, I'm up there at that moment in time. As we leave the corner, it's fine. However, I start losing time because Manu Rodri is up there in the speed. I mean, it's literally 2 miles an hour difference. And that 2 miles an hour is all the way to the line. And that's where I lose the time attempt there. So going a bit deeper is what I'm going to do at the hairpin potentially, because I think that is beneficial as we go back here. You see Manu Rodri's line there, the yellow line. That is something I have picked up on in Delta. It's what I love about Delta. You can compare against my laps, Manu Rodri's laps, compare against your own laps if you so wish. I still have plenty of time in my laps. And will I jump back on and improve? You'll have to wait and see. That's it for Daily Race A, though. Let's jump to Daily Race B, where we go to a very familiar combo. We're at Deep Forest Raceway, and I'm in a Dodge Viper GT3R. Here we are going down the start-finish straight. My brake balance is +5 that you can see down on that right-hand side. Speaking of which, the first brake marker. So the start of the curb on that right-hand side is your brake marker. Now you can try and brake at the 100-meter board, but it's a little bit last and late breakers. It is possible if you're really good with trail braking. However, I would advise you to use the start of the curb on that right-hand side just as a starting point to really get the consistency in terms of your laps. As you come into this corner, what you will do is you'll start trail braking towards the end of the braking phase and just stay on the brakes that little bit longer. Watch what I do right now. I come down the gears here. Now I start trail braking, still trail braking, still trail braking, still trail braking. Notice that I'm in the middle of the corner before I stop. Now I rolled the Viper a little bit because it does suffer with a bit of understeer. If you're in an MR car, you might want to accelerate that a little bit earlier. What I'm looking for, though, is that orange painted barrier as an accelerating marker. So I've waited till it's more in the center of the screen here in the Viper, just due to the understeer that this car does suffer with. However, you may want to just do it as it appears on the screen if you are in a different Group 3 car. However, that is your accelerating marker that you use on Turn 1 here at Deep Forest, and you can use that in any class of car as well, not just in Group 3. So we're going to accelerate through this corner. Notice I lifted off a little bit again, just trying to avoid some of that understeer. As long as you stay on the red and white curbing, you are absolutely fine in terms of track limits. So we're going to head up here now, head over towards that left-hand side as we accelerate. And what we're going to do is just stop it right here. So on the left-hand side, we have this wooden fence, right? Okay. So you can see it step up a little bit. This is your turning marker. You don't need to brake for this. If you are struggling with a bit of understeer, do dab the brakes a little bit, but I'm not going to hit the brakes. I'm just going to lift off and then try and keep the speed up in the car. And I really want to cut the inside of this corner, okay? You can see on chase cam exactly where that is, so it's just before you get to that. You're just turning in right now. So what we'll do, we'll turn in. You'll see me lift off a little bit here, okay? And just watch me try and carry the speed. So I've lifted off a little bit on the throttle, then I roll a little bit, then I'm on the throttle again, and I'm accelerating to this point right here, okay? So we've got the grass into concrete there on the left-hand side. This marker, okay, you have to brake before it, because what I want you to do in a front-engine rear-wheel drive car like the Dodge Viper is to actually abuse the concrete a little bit. There's some speed bumps on there, but you can actually go over them if you're not doing anything, and the car won't really react too much to them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here, okay? I'm going to dab the brakes, let the car then turn into this, make sure I stay on the red and white curbs on the right-hand side, but that gives me more of an angle then to attack the right that's coming up. So here we go. Notice that, I'll lift off and let the car roll through there. Then we're going to dab the brakes again, and then turn in. Now, you can do this corner in second or third gear. I do advise third gear just to give the car some stability as we continue on through. We get to this point here, just exiting the tunnel, start of sector 2, and we have the concrete into the end of the curb down the left-hand side. This is your brake marker. Now, for this corner, it's a long right-hander, okay? It feels like a hairpin, essentially. And what I want you to do is I want you to trail brake all the way into this. So I've talked about trail braking a lot already in this guide, but essentially all that is I'm braking as I turn, but I'm not braking 100%. Imagine wheels or your tyres. You can do 100% of something. So if you 100% brake, you can't turn. If you 50% brake, you can 50% turn. It's not quite one for one, but that's the idea behind this. Notice that I'm trail braking. I let the car roll now, and then I'm going on the throttle. Now, the reason I'm going to start acceleration right now is because I can see the red above the tunnel there on that right-hand side. Alternatively, you can use the arrows on the left, so the last two there have gone past the center of my screen, so I could use them as well as I go through here as an accelerating marker. Now, on the exit of this corner, the car can get very oversteering. In fact, most cars get oversteering on the exit because normally you're in the power band somewhere, you're overturning the car because it's a long turn. The weight's fully on that left-hand side, so you do have to be careful. Notice I was on 50% throttle. I've got to about 70, then I've got to about 95 there. Now I'm on 100. That's to avoid that oversteer. So if you initially load the wheels to 50%, obviously they've only got 50% of the power going through, they can then get the grip. Then go to 70% or 80%, whatever you want to go to, then it's just a tiny bit more added, rather than going from 0 to 100 and generating that wheel spin. We get to this point here then, and this is where the curb goes most into the circuit. This is a brake marker. So at this moment in time, you're going to straight line this, okay? So you're going over the curb, you're going to dab the brakes, and you could do this corner in third or fourth gear, entirely your choice. Third gear will give you a bit more rotation. However, it will slow you down a little bit more from the engine braking, whereas fourth gear, you carry a bit more speed. I'm going to do it in fourth gear then. Notice I was on the brakes. I'm going to let the car roll in a second. Roll, 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 roll. We just get into the dip of the corner, then we hit the accelerator. We continue to this point here, which arguably is one of the most important corners on this circuit because we have a very long acceleration period. We have the tarmac going into the concrete, which you can use as a brake marker, or you could use the Armco going into the barrier for the bridge there on the right-hand side. They're at the same point, so pick and choose whichever one you prefer, okay? You're going to brake in a straight line all the way down this curb, okay? You're going to drop to second gear. As you get to second gear, I want you to release the brakes a little bit and turn the car in. Remember, thinking about what I just said? 50% braking, you can do 50% turning. That's exactly what I want you to do. So we can drop to second gear, release the brakes there. Notice there, we let the car turn in, we clip the curb, we short shift to third gear to reduce any power oversteer. We're at 70% throttle there until we get a little bit straighter, and then we go. Now I've just paused it right here because I want to show you track limits. Look how much to the right I am. Now the only reason I don't get a penalty is because my left tyres are on the red and white curbs. If they were fully on the green, I would get a track limit penalty. But the curb counts as track. I'm using the track to my full advantage, therefore I can carry a bit more speed and carry it all the way down this back straight now. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. We go on 100% speed here as we head towards the hairpin. You've done the hard part now at Deep Forest. You have one corner basically to get right. However, it can be a tricky corner. So we're approaching that corner right now, and what we will do is look on the right hand side because we have two brake markers here. We've got the camera structure, which you can use, or the catch fence, which is a bit further on. Now, I like to use the camera structure here and brake a bit earlier. It's very easy to outbrake yourself for this corner, go way too deep, then try and get the car turned round. At that point, it's too late because it's just taking a long time. The car can't turn that much, and then accelerate out. You'll lose 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second very easy. Whereas if you brake a bit earlier, you can just release the brakes a little bit, allow the car to rotate, and then accelerate on the exit. Yeah, you might go a tiny bit slower, but I'd rather lose a tenth than lose 3 or 4 tenths. Watch what happens here. We go on the brakes and we stay towards the right hand side. We start to come in then at first gear. We'll then start to release brakes. So the car then releases itself. We're then going to go up to second gear very quickly. We're careful on the exit about accelerating a little bit too early. We're about 60-70% throttle left for a little while to allow the car to balance itself. Then we go full throttle, and now we can head towards the line. Now, it doesn't really matter to stay to the inside here as you go down this dip, just because the distance between going out wide in here is very, very minimal. You might want to set up the next lap, so don't worry about it too much. That's 26.353. Here we go into the first corner then, as we got to the start of the curb. Trail brake, trail brake. Look for the orange paint barrier. There it is, third gear as we exit that corner. We're going to head up the hill, head over towards the left-hand side. Remember, we're looking for that fence. Where is it? There it is. Turn in, lift off. Just bounce the car a little bit, accelerate a bit more now. Just before the grass to concrete, we brake. Roll over the speed bumps, then hit the brakes again. Go through the corner, accelerate out of the corner. End of the curb is your next brake marker. Trail brake all the way through. Now keep trail braking. Let the car roll. Look for the red, and then we go. Be careful on the exit of power oversteer. Continue on through. Straight line this corner now. Dab the brakes. Trail brake a little bit. Turn in. Where's the bump? There it is. Continue on through. Start the bridge, and we hit the brakes. Second gear. Clip the curb. Short shift to third gear. Straighten up the steering as quick as you can. Use all of the track, making sure you stay on the red and white curb. Now we head towards the hairpin. Remember, use the camera structure on the right hand side. Where is it? There it is. Hit the brakes. Going to drop down to first gear. As we release the brakes, watch the car turn. Happy days. We can then go on throttles. Short shift there to second. We continue out of that corner, and we're going to head towards the line now here at Deep Forest for that 0.3 again. Let's jump into Delta then, and let's see where we can improve on this lap time and maybe get a 25.9. So we're here in Delta then, and I've loaded Suzu's lap for this one. It appears to be the quickest of the pros currently on the Coach Dave Delta app. Now, we'll just follow this through, look for where there are gains and losses here, because it's basically an identical time. The times are very close here at Deep Forest anyway, so if we can pick out just a couple of strengths and weaknesses here, I might be able to improve my lap a little bit more. So we're going to go down to start finish straight here as we head towards turn number 1. We're about identical as we go into here. And as we get to the middle of the corner, I'm a tenth down. So I'm obviously slowing down a lot more than Suzu was. But as we go through this corner, we get to the exit. I've lost just under half a tenth of a second there. So I could do that corner a little bit better straight off the bat. And it looks like Suzu's just turned in a tiny bit earlier there and got a slightly different line. Does Suzu change gear at any point? Yeah, so Suzu goes down to first gear where I stay in second gear. So maybe that's something I can improve on. And I have talked about that rotation before now. So we have to think about this as we go through the corner. We're going to head up the hill, over through the right-hander there. Oh, we gain a lot of time back there. So somewhere where Suzu can possibly improve here. So as we come into here, remember, I just lift off. Suzu's braking. Suzu is braking, and that is giving me a lot. Look at that, 5 miles an hour difference. I'm using the downforce of the car there, and we're back to being even. Very interesting indeed. So then we get to the concrete and the grass. We're going to use all of the left-hand side as we go into here. Through the right-hander we go, and I've actually lost some time there. So is that wise that I did that? Let's have a look at some of the speeds then. Suits just carrying more speed. I did not carry enough speed through there. That's somewhere I need to improve. So I'm seeing a lot of key points here that I can gain very quickly. Turn 1, use first gear, carry more speed through the little chicane here. So we go through the tunnel. We're about 10th down here as we go into the second right. And as we leave there, we're still the same. So this is straight line in that corner that I talked about as we go through here. So we're 800ths down. And as we get through there, we've gained time once again. Very interesting indeed. And let's have a look at the mid speed there. 5 miles an hour difference. Notice here, it's all about carrying the speed. Carrying the speed is critical in Group 3 because of the downforce. We've seen that here at Deep Forest. So once again, somewhere where I can definitely improve already there. So we're back to being even as we get to the left right before the back straight. And in fact, as we go on to here, I'm actually ahead at this point. So as we go through here then, once again, I'm carrying a bit more speed as we then get to the exit. And I think I've actually run a little bit wider than Tutsu there as well. So we're actually up now at this moment in time. So I'm going to lose some time at the hairpin, I assume. As we get to this point then, who hits the brakes first? Oh, very close. Can't tell. So Tutsu hits the brakes just before I do. As we go onto the brakes, Tutsu takes a slightly tighter line. We're seeing that right here as we get to this point here. So I'm actually up here by a significant amount. Real big amount here there, actually. That's actually insane. So on the exit then, I lose time on the exit. So Tutsu takes a tighter line, manages to accelerate that a little bit earlier. So then by the end, or by the exit curb, so obviously I didn't risk as much there. I was not on throttle as quick. So we go exactly the same time. Tutsu's a bit higher, then 100%. I'm not 100% there until a little bit later on. That cost me a 1/10 of a second. So critically there, what we learnt is that turn 1, I need to drop to first gear, get a bit more rotation. I did talk about that understeer. We also learned that through some of these corners, I'm not carrying enough speed. I'm not having confidence in the car. And that's something I need to improve on. That's possibly something you need to improve on as well. So think about that. Carrying a bit more speed. Letting the car roll a bit more and braking a little bit less. But you carry that speed. The downforce works, pushes the car into the ground, and you get round the corners. Happy days indeed. That's it for Daily Race B then. Let's jump to one of my favourite circuits in Gran Turismo 7. We're going to Catalonia. It's without the chicane. And I'm in a GT by Citroen race car, which was the very first, essentially very first, Vision Gran Turismo car. So on the start, finish straight here at Catalonia, and you can see my brake balance down in that bottom right side, plus 5 brake balance. It does make the car a little bit oversteery. That's exactly what I'm after. We're going to head towards turn 1 then, long straight this one, and we get to this point here where we've got the black flag indicator, and then we have the 100 board there. Either of these two can be your markers. Obviously, the later you go, the better your braking should be. But going in the middle of these is probably the perfect area between aggression and just braking that tiny bit earlier. The flag indicator is a bit too early in the Citroen. So we're going to drop down the gears. Okay, we're going to stay towards the left-hand side. And as we release the brakes, we want to clip the curb on the inside. Now, it's critical you get this line right, okay? Because if you go too aggressive here, you're going to run wide on the second part. Let me explain. I'm going to come into here then, okay? We're in third gear. We start to release the brakes, and we clip the curb on the inside. We accelerate through, and then we're going to lift off a tiny bit as we go into this left side here, and then continue on through. Notice how far left we need to get now. If you run further wide there, you're going to have a really tight line for this corner, and you really don't want it. Because of where I was, I could have tapped this corner really hard. And notice that I was on the accelerator for a long time before lifting. Now, I've highlighted this point here. Now, it's very hard to see on this particular video just because of brightness. But there is an orange painted barrier right there. And you'll see it more clearly as you race. This is your accelerator marker. So the closer that gets to the center of your screen, the earlier you should be accelerating. Okay, so if it's hit the center, you should be 100%. If it's a quarter of the way across, okay. If you can accelerate, great. If you can't, just wait a little bit longer and then go. Okay, so just judge that accordingly depending on your car and the line you've taken on the previous corner. This corner does start to open up, as you're seeing right now. So you do head out wide here as you straighten up the steering. You don't want to head too wide too early, though. Because the Group 4 cars are a little lower in power, it's actually better to actually reduce the distance of the circuit. Now we get to this point here, okay, so we have this bridge across, so you can literally walk across that bridge there. And on the left-hand side, we have the board, 50 board. I think it's 50 board or 100 board. I can't actually read the writing. There's a board there anyway. So you have to start the bridge and that board there. So as that disappears off the edge of your screen on the left-hand side, you're going to hit the brakes. But you do want to turn towards the corner a tiny bit if you can. So braking diagonally. Still not turning, but you're braking 100% diagonally. Then what you want to actually do is then release the brakes and really try and carry the speed in this GT by Citroen race car, okay? So watch what I do now. So I've turned a little bit, 100% braking. As I start to release, the car instantly wants to turn right. And I trail brake that last little bit. What we're looking for then is on that left hand side, and it's the orange painted barrier there. This is our accelerating marker. Okay, so once it's gone past the middle of your screen, that's when you can think about accelerating. The further along it goes, obviously, the more you should be accelerating at that point. Now, critically for this corner, it starts off really tight and then it opens up. So if you can carry the speed into it, you might start running wide a little bit, but that's absolutely fine. You can just follow the circuit all the way around. What we'll do, we'll jump into this lap and continue this lap now as we follow it round. And notice there, as we start to straighten up the wheel now, we're using all of the circuit. So we're going to head over towards the right-hand side now, and our focus is going to be on the right-hand side. In fact, it's going to be on top of the hill on that right-hand side, because what I believe are toilets, I've been told they're toilets in the past, is that building on top of the hill. So you can see the points there where it meets, and that is literally my brake marker. Now, critically for this corner, you do not want to brake too late. If you brake too late, you're going to go way too deep. Then you've got to get the car rotated and get round, and you'll lose 2 or 3 tenths of a second. And I was doing that originally when I was doing these laps this morning. So brake earlier for this one. Keep it nice and tight. Now, you might want to drop to first gear here just to get some rotation. You might not. It's entirely up to you if you suffer with too much rotation. But we come into this corner. Let's say we're trail braking as we did this as well. We stay in second gear. If we get to the curb, we can start accelerating. Now, you see a little bit of oversteer there, but the car catches itself very nicely. We can continue on through. Don't run too wide there, though, because the red and white curbing is track limit. So we're going to continue on towards the fast chicane now here at Catalunya. And I want you to focus now on the curb up ahead. Now, I don't want you to go too close to that curb, because if you touch the grass, you're going to go for a bit of a spin. But the start of that curb is your brake marker. Now, this is a third gear corner. So what I want you to do is hit the brakes. Don't go onto the curb. You can take the risk and go onto the curb, and that will open the angle a little bit. But if you go onto the curb, you are taking risk. As I say, you'll touch the grass and spin. But if you can use the curb, it's a bit of an advantage. Watch what I do right now. So you want to follow the curb, not necessarily go on it. I want you to brake down to third gear. What I want you to do then is release the brakes and turn in. I want you to clip the inside red and white curb in. Do not go any further over it. Then straight line this next bit, but make sure your left tyres stay on the red and white curb in. If you go over the red and white curbing, you'll obviously get a track limit penalty, and you do have to be careful. Now we're heading to one of my favourite corners at Catalunya, to be honest with you, this fast right-hander. Now, in the GT by Citroen, you can do this without braking at all. And the end of the curb there is the marker I use. So when I get to that point, I lift off, turn in, and then I'm aiming to touch the curb on the inside. You can use the orange painted barrier, which is why I've highlighted that on the left-hand side. However, the end of the curb, for me, is the better marker. So I'll say I'm going to lift off, I'm going to turn in, and what I want to do is clip the inside curb. If I clip the inside curb, I can then accelerate in this car, because the curb just grips the car and allows it to rotate. So there we go. We've lifted off. We're coming in now. I know I'm going to clip the curb, so I try to accelerate a bit earlier than I should have. When you clip the curb, then accelerate. Again, staying on the red and white curbing will mean you will not get a track limit penalty. We're going to continue on down now towards the hairpin, and our focus is going to be on the right hand side, because Group 4 cars have a lot less power than they used to, so they're very much more stable. It also means that the brakes, which haven't been changed, feel a lot stronger. So we have the flag indicator, which is the first marker on the right. It's very hard to see in a screenshot, but trust me, it's there, more obvious when you're racing. And then we have the 100 board. So use these two as markers. So I started with the flag indicator, and it worked very well. I'd release the brakes, I'd roll the car a little bit, because obviously it's a bit early on the brakes, but that would work fine. I started going towards and closer to the 100 board, and that's what I'm going to focus on right now. Chase cam can, of course, use the portal on the left-hand side. So we're going to hit the brakes here. Now, you're going to want to drop to first gear. Notice that I'm trying to turn. It's not quite working. I release the brakes. The car then wants to turn. I short shift to second gear. Be careful on exit. You will suffer some power oversteer. Try not to over catch it. Let the car slide into it, and you should be fine. Over towards the left-hand side. We're going to cut this corner quite a lot, and it allows us to now straight line this part into the right-hander. So this is where we're going to brake. Now, I've highlighted the orange painted barrier on the left-hand side, but that's not really my brake marker. I highlight it all the time just as a marker for those that need a marker for this right-hander. What I tend to do is basically get in a straight line and then hit the brakes as I go into this corner, because if I'm braking in a straight line, that's 100% braking efficiency. I can then trail brake the last little bit, which allows the car to rotate as I turn into the corner, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. So we hit the brakes and we are trail braking right now. Trail braking all the way through. And then I get really, really, really aggressive on the throttle. Really early on the throttle, okay? And the reason I do that is because I'm just trying to get the rotation of the car. Now, I've marked these two markers here. So we've got the sausage on the inside. You can use sausages throughout this circuit as accelerator markers on the inside. Alternatively, you can use the orange painted barrier up ahead. As it gets to the middle of the screen, start accelerating. I've got a bit earlier because I'm trying to get number 1 on the leaderboard. And this lap at that time, in fact, all morning, was rank 1 on the leaderboard as well. So it's a really good lap in the grand scheme of it. So we're going to start accelerating right now and watch how I control the car. Notice that I wasn't quite 100% throttle. That's just to reduce some of the understeer that potentially would have happened. But we get to a nice line here. Now, what you're going to see is some tyre marks now intersecting the red and white curbing, which arguably is, well, there's a lot of tyre marks on it, but you can see the quite critical one there. And we're going to follow that same line into this corner. Now, I've talked about track limits throughout this lap, red and white curbing, which means you can cut a lot of this inside of this corner to actually benefit yourself, because that obviously gives you a better line out, and then you can continue on towards the outside. So you get a much better angle. It's not quite as tight. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to follow that tyre mark. I'm going to turn in. There we go. We start turning in. And notice how much I cut here, but my left tyres are on the red and white curbing, so it's absolutely fine. I lifted a little bit. I didn't need to there, just because I got a bit scared. I'm going to head towards the final corner then. But notice again, we're straddling the sausage. So our left tyres, yes, are out of bounds. Our right tyres are still within track limits because they're on the red and white curbing. That pit lane sign there on the right side is our brake marker. As it hits the edge of my screen, I'm going to hit the brakes. And critically, you need to be in 4th gear. If you're in 5th gear, you are going to understeer off the circuit on the exit. So 4th gear is the perfect gear here. So I'm going to hit the brakes, drop to 4th gear, and I'm going to turn the car in. As I turn the car in theory, the left tyre should just miss the end of the sausage. Let's see what happens here. And we just clip it there, so a small mistake, but next time we can improve on that. But notice there we clip the curb on the inside. Therefore, we can accelerate through the corner. One of the real big mistakes there is turning in a bit too late after the sausage, and you just understeer off the circuit. What we're going to do now is go into a fast lap. Okay, so we're going to head towards turn number 1. Remember, looking for the flag indicator or the 100 board, or in the middle of them both. They're on the left-hand side. There, they're coming up now. We're going to hit the brakes. We drop to 3rd gear. We release the brakes, turn in, clip the curb, accelerate a bit more, then lift off through the left. Make sure you get as far left as possible and go aggressive into this right-hander. Then lift off a little bit, clip the curb, look for the orange painted barrier. There it is. Start to accelerate. Open up the steering now as this corner also opens up as well. End of the bridge on the left-hand side. So that's brake marker. 3rd gear, turn towards the corner a little bit. Start to release the brakes. Get as close to that curb as possible. Start accelerating when the orange painted barrier is past the halfway marker. We continue on through. Once again, the corner opens up over towards the right-hand side. Building on the top of the hill. Hit the brakes. Down towards 2nd gear now. Try and get rotation. And then continue on through. Use all of the exit curb there. Again, making sure your left tyre stay on that red and white curb. And continue on through. Start of the curb here is our brake marker. Stay in 4th gear as well. That's critical for that part. I should have mentioned that. Stay in 4th gear. Through we go. Straight line this bit as we head up here. Remember, you don't need to brake for this corner. Just lift off, turn in. That's all you need to do at the end of the curb. There we go. Once you clip the curb, continue on through there. And now head towards a hairpin. Knowing you've done half the lap already. Looking for the flag indicator on the right side. Then the 100 board. Where is it? There it is. There's the flag indicator. There's the 100 board. We hit the brakes. Drop to 1st gear. Short shift to 2nd as we clip the curb. Start to accelerate out. Straight on steering as quick as possible. Over towards the left-hand side now. Cut the curb. Brake in a straight line. Trail brake as much as you can here. Try and get the car rotated. You don't have to go as aggressive as I did there on the throttle. Continue on through. Look for the tyre marks up ahead. Where are they? There they are. Turn in. Cut the inside of the corner. Continue on through. Pit lane sign there. We're going to hit the brakes. Turn in. Through we go. Clip the curb. Accelerate towards the line. And that was a 147.3 from memory. Next up then, as we get the lap time, let's jump into Delta and see if we can improve just that teeny tiny little bit more. So we've loaded Suitsu's lap here, who's actually gone quicker than I have by about a 10th or so. It's just under a 10th of a second. So we'll go through the lap now and let's find out where Suitsu gets that little bit extra time. So we're going to head towards turn number 1. We're basically identical here as we approach this corner. So if we're identical as we go through it, are we identical at the exit? No, Suitsu's actually done that a little bit quicker. Why is the question? So the first corner here, carrying 2 miles an hour more speed, is Suitsu. Gets this part here. Still 2 miles an hour more speed, so it's just carrying the speed, just carries more speed throughout the entirety of that corner. And as we go into here, it's basically a 10th foot. But we get to the exit then, and yeah, nearly a 10th up now. So that sector 1 is where I can improve. Critically though, it's this part here. where Tsutsu is just carrying that bit more speed up until this point here. And then does Tsutsu go on the brakes first? Nope, it's just lifting, but we continue on through there. So I need to carry more speed in Sector 1. We've discovered that as we head to Sector 2 then. So we're a 10th down. We must gain that back somewhere as we go into here. And we have a better right-hander there. Really better. You can actually see Tsutsu took a much tighter line. No need to do that. So we're carrying a bit more speed as we head down to the sharp left-hander. As we go through here, we've actually lost that time again there. So that was critical as we go into here. Who hits the brakes first? We hit the brakes at the exact same time. Look at that. That's amazing. As we go into here, I'm hitting the brakes that little bit longer and not carrying the speed. Very critical you carry speed here. So Tsutsu now, once again, a 10th up there. So I gain it back and then lose it again. So there's a lot of time still in this lap. So this is the fast chicane. As we go through here, we're about even there. So that's no worries. As we go into here, does Tsutsu brake for this corner? No. So we're a 10th and a half down right now. So our second half of our lap must be very good because we've lost time throughout this entirety here. And as we go through the fast right-hander, Tsutsu even has more time in this one as we get to the exit there. So we're going to go into the hairpin. We're basically 2 times out. Wow, we gained that back immediately into here. So we hit the brakes. As we go through here, yeah, we instantly gain a 10th back, so we nail the hairpin very nicely indeed. I wonder whether that's wheel spin or something of that nature, but we're 2 miles an hour better on the exit. We're going to go into the right then, and that stays about even through the fast right. No problem there whatsoever. A little bit on the last corner, but critically what we've discovered here is that my Sector 1 here, I need to improve a lot in terms of speed, which is good to know. Something to improve on in this lap. And we also need to improve a little bit there on the left-hander. Now, this is a difficult one to get right. Remember, we're using the toilets for this brake marker. And it's a very hard corner to get right. I'm very interested in gear selection as well from Tsutsu. We're in the exact same part there. Tsutsu just goes to third a little bit earlier than I do. So maybe that's something I need to work on there. It's just gear selection. Very interesting indeed. Some areas there for me to improve on, mainly carrying a bit more speed in the GT by Citroen, but that's what I talked about throughout the lap all the same when I did it. Hopefully these tips will help you, and do make sure you do check out the Delta app. It's absolutely fantastic for this sort of stuff. And as you've just seen, I figured out some key areas where I can improve and actually improve my lap time as well. I've been Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tishney. I do hope you have enjoyed these lap guides as always. If you have done, give it a like, subscribe to this channel, and make sure you add any comments down below if you have any questions as well. A big thank you for watching as always, and we'll see you next week for some more lap guides here on the Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo channel.